Hello and welcome back to Your Questions Answered with Father Gruner. I'm John Veneri. We take your questions that you send to us via email. Father Gruner answers them. We talk about them. And there's a new program every day from Monday through Friday. So please send us your questions. Continue to send us your questions at questions@thefatimacenter.com. And we've been talking about the third secret, and in a way, the next question didn't come to us within the context of the secret explicitly, but the question is, are we in the Great Apostasy? Are we in the time predicted by Our Lady of La Salette, where it says Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of Antichrist?
Well, I think that Our Lady of La Salette, just for our viewers who may not be familiar with it, she appeared one time in 1846 on the 19th of September. And she gave two secrets, one to Melanie and one to Maxime. There were just two visionaries. One was a young man, a young boy, 14, and Melanie. They were about the same age, maybe 2 years apart from each other. Anyway, and Lucy and Melanie, I think, has this, and her secret was published in 1879 with permission of Our Lady and with the imprimatur of an Italian bishop. And in there we see that phrase, Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of Antichrist. And so that is, are we in this great apostasy, and is it now? And of course, in all these things, there's a development, because the great apostasy isn't something that takes place overnight. Now, certainly we have Pope John Paul II, and we have, I believe, Cardinal Ratzinger, Pope Benedict XVI, both talking about the silent apostasy in Europe going on now. So it's not like it's just people talking about visionaries in Fatima that are talking about apostasy. We have the popes speaking publicly about this in our time. Now, they didn't use the word great apostasy, but they certainly used the word apostasy. So are we in an apostasy? I don't think there could be anyone who knows the Catholic faith who can say we are not in an apostasy.
No, an apostasy meaning a great falling away.
Falling
away from the true faith.
Yes, and apostasy is rebellion. So, I mean, there's what is it? I remember Malachi Martin's on his radio program to millions of people talking about. He spent about 15 minutes on the subject of heresy, schism, and apostasy, and he described what these things are. I mean, schism is bad enough. Heresy is worse, but apostasy is much worse again because it encloses both schism and apostasy, and many heresies. So we have a great falling away. People are living today. I mean, you just have to go outside. I mean, do people say grace at the meals? Not that this. Do they acknowledge God from one end? Do they in church? I mean, just take the abortion thing. A woman has a right to her body. No, our rights come from God. And God does not give a right to anybody to kill anybody, including their own children, even if they're inside their mother's womb. It's not a right that comes from God. It's murder. But people don't even think that way. They don't even talk that way, and they sometimes think that we're being bad to them. People say they have a right for homosexual marriage. God didn't. That's a abomination in God's mind. And God says so.
Well, there's
and so God doesn't give a right to. It's a contradiction.
There is no moral right for a moral wrong.
That's correct, exactly.
Yeah. I might have the freedom to do it, but I don't have the moral right.
Well, I mean, as long as God leaves you that freedom, and God has been known to
physical freedom.
Physical freedom, yes. But God has been known to strike people dead. Not that He does it all the time, but He does it sometimes just to show that He doesn't approve of things like that. And so, but people are acting and living. They don't go to church, but or even if they do go to church, they're living and acting like there's no God.
Yes, and also a lot of this comes from the fact that we're living at a time when the clergy themselves, so many of the clergy, are malformed in this new orientation, and they themselves are not teaching the people and not reinforcing what needs. And so it's a huge breakdown to the point now that you have Jesuits and various priests who are defending sins that cry to heaven for vengeance.
Yes,
and we have the Catholic education system just bottoming out. I mean, we live at a time where Catholic parents, at great personal sacrifice, have to teach their children at home, homeschool them, because they can't trust the curriculum that their own Catholic bishops and their own Catholic parishes are giving them. And homeschooling, Catholic homeschooling, is what I'll call a huge industry at this point, because so many Catholics are doing it because they know they can't trust their bishops and they can't trust their parishes.
So-called sex education programs, which are sex perversion programs. I mean, some of these programs, I don't know what they are today, but they couldn't be sent through the U.S. mail because they'd be considered pornography.
Couldn't be shown on television, some of it, on regular television.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, we're running out of time here. This is a big topic, but there is no doubt, of course, that we are in a time of apostasy.
Is it the great apostasy? We haven't answered that question, but certainly one could make the case it's perhaps the greatest apostasy that the church has ever experienced. The only other one that compares to it is the apostasy at the time of the Arian heresy. And that was a heresy. This is more than the heresy. This is apostasy.
Because what we have, a defining mark of what we have now is men at the highest echelons of the church who have contempt for tradition, contempt for what came before us. And that is something that Hilaire Belloc in 1933 said that this is the mark of the new paganism. The main mark is contempt of tradition. And this is what we have, and that's why...
Well, that tradition itself is either enshrines dogma, enshrines the teaching, or enshrines the practice. Mm-hmm. So it's either the morals or the dogma that's being contempted. And part of their doing it is because they're in ignorance. They don't even know the fundamentals of dogma.
At this point, we have so many generations now, since the Second Vatican Council, that we've met them, many of the priests, they don't even know how far removed they are.
And some of them are very famous, and some of them are quoted daily in the press.
It's scary. It's very scary. So anyway, so there's no doubt that we're in the time of apostasy, and we learn the faith by keeping to what the church always taught, and maybe we'll do a program on that in the future. So that's all for today, and we'll see you next time.